Welcome to the Near Patients Podcast. I'm the host, Henry Wilson, and it would be amazing if you would like and share this podcast. Also, please consider subscribing on YouTube or following on Spotify for more content. This episode is brought to you by eStudio 54. I hope you enjoy. Ian Whitaker, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm happy that you could come on.
Thank you. I'm glad I could get out of class for this.
Yeah, that's the spirit.
Oh yeah, Spanish is not my forte.
You know, I really like learning another language, but at sometimes it's just like I'm mentally checked out for the day, and it's just like I can't deal with it.
I mentally checked out for the year about a couple months ago. So.
Well, you're a senior, so that makes sense.
Yeah, senioritis kicked in at the end of last year, so I've just had it for the whole year this year.
Do you just like not care anymore with senioritis?
I do care. Like I want to get a good GPA for college. You know, helps with scholarships and stuff. But at the same time, like if I miss an assignment, I'm not freaking out. So.
Just rather have to sleep or play video games?
I don't even play video games anymore. I just work and sleep and go to school.
On that grind.
Yeah. Trying to make that money, pay for cars and stuff like that. So
oh, yeah, that's right. You got a new car.
I did.
How's that like?
The car is everything I've ever wanted in like an SUV, but at the same time, it's everything I did not want in an SUV.
Oh. So what car model did you get?
It's a 2015 Subaru Forester. It's the 2.0 XT, which is essentially the performance model. Comes with a smaller displacement motor with a turbo.
Okay.
So it makes like 80 or 90 more horsepower than the base model.
So it's not like the what is it, the 2.5 liter STI, is that engine? The one that they put in the WRX for?
So the WRX, the regular WRX comes with a 2 liter turbo, but the STI comes with a 2.5 liter turbo. So the Forester basically has a WRX motor in it, which it's just a Fast and Furious style car, basically. Yeah,
my mom and my sister both have Subaru Foresters. I think they just have the standard engine. They don't have the turbo one because you don't really need it at that point.
Yeah, your sister has the same year model that I do, but mine's faster. So
yours is faster.
It is faster.
Yeah, considering all the trash and everything she has in there, that's bound to add an extra 100 pounds or so.
Yeah, you gotta get that waste savings, you know.
Exactly. Every pound counts when it comes
every pound
on the
counts.
strip. Yeah. So the car that you drove before your new Forester, what car was that?
It was a 2001 Mitsubishi Montero, which I've always tried to have a car that I enjoyed, and the Montero is like an iconic car in the car world because it's one of the most successful cars that ever competed in the Dakar Rally, which is like the household like rally competition.
Yeah.
And it ended up winning more times than I can count.
Really?
It was nice to have that little piece of history, but it also sucked because it was terribly unreliable. I was putting $500 a month into it just to keep it running.
Yeah.
So.
At that point, it's just like you have to ask yourself the question, is it worth it to keep it?
Yeah, and the thermostat quit working. And so, it just overheated. I couldn't tell that it overheated because it wasn't reading any temperature. Shut off on the highway going 70 miles an hour.
You're lucky it's not one of those new ones that the steering wheel locks up. That would have been a bad day.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to wrestle it off the road with no power steering and no brake booster, but I mean, I was so mad anyways that it didn't really matter if I rolled it off in a ditch or something.
You were so angry at the car that you just wanted to make sure you just like didn't die.
Yeah.
And that you just.
Well, yeah. I pulled off the road and it was like spewing coolant out of the radiator onto the headers and stuff.
Oh yeah,
so it looked like the car was on fire.
Yeah, it was smoking.
I was like, I hope this thing burns to the ground. because I was so done with it. But I knew it wasn't burning. I knew the coolant was just burning off the headers and all that. So we replaced the radiator on it, and hoping that would fix the issue. Turns out I warped the head, which is a very expensive fix. The car's nearly totaled just from the cost of the engine rebuild. So I was like, yeah, I'm just going to get something new, something reliable, something I actually enjoy.
Yeah.
So
And Subaru is a really reliable brand.
yeah,
it's
for
not,
sure.
Yeah, them and Toyota and Mazda to a certain extent. It's like, it's not surprising you see them to go 300,000 miles. Like, if you just change your fluids, change your oil, and just make sure you like don't wreck it, it's a very reliable car.
Do your proper maintenance, kids. That's how you keep your car from
Yes.
doing what mine did, even though I kept up with the maintenance on it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just get unlucky. But I don't know, the Subaru, it's fast, it looks nice, it's got nice wheels. However, it's very expensive. If you're a high school student, I do not recommend getting a car that's $18,000 because it's very hard to keep up with the payments.
How many miles were on it?
It had 95 when I got it, and it still has. It rolled over 96.
That's not bad.
Yesterday. So
Yeah, I think my mom, she got a Subaru Forester. It was just it's the same model. It's just a year newer.
yeah,
And I think she got that for just under 20,000, and it had about 70,000 miles at the time. So, and that's when Maggie got the old one that my mom had.
yeah. I wanted to get something new, something that I knew would get me through college, and I mean it's got the warranty. So if I blow the motor up, I get a new one for a $200 deductible. So I'm kind of hoping.
I mean, that's a fair price.
I'm kind of hoping the motor and transmission fall out of the bottom of it before my warranty expires, just so I can get something fresh in it. But I trust the motor, and I trust the dealership. I trust that they didn't sell me a turd,
Yeah, that's never a fun thing when you get sold a turd.
Yeah.
As a car. Yeah, when you were talking about how your car overheated, so it was the Mitsubishi
Montero.
Okay, I was about to say the Monero, but I'm like, that's not it.
If you're from overseas, it's called the Pajero. That's what most people know.
Oh, okay. I think I've heard.
Pajeros are like
before.
iconic, and especially Pajero Minis, which I would love to have one of those, but I really don't want another Mitsubishi.
And those are really good in rally racing, right?
Yeah, even my consumer grade Montero was, it was great off-road. I could take it, to the lake or whatever and try and get it stuck, and it would not get stuck. But
yeah, that's really impressive. Yeah, you mentioned the car overheating. I think, and so my old grandma car that I had, the '96 Avalon, the all white one. Yeah, that was it was a hoopty.
rest in peace.
Yeah, it was a sad day. But something similar happened, not as dramatic, but we replaced the power steering fluid and a few other of the fluids, like the windshield wiper fluid, nothing major. And then all of a sudden, just like maybe a week or two after, I think it was just coincidence, but everything, like you'd start seeing something start to smoke. And we originally were like, oh, maybe it's the power steering fluid, maybe we added too much. That'd be a big thing to happen, but it's a possibility. But then we checked under the hood, and it looked like it was that just from where it was. But it ended up being the coolant from the radiator, and we didn't necessarily realize it.
Yeah.
So sometimes we would smoke, it wasn't too bad. But then one morning I was driving to swim practice. It was like, the 7 a.m. swim practice on a Saturday.
Absolutely hate morning practice for swim. Oh my God. Absolutely hate it.
Because going to like the swim practice, it was like on one hand, you could wake up early so you have the rest of the day to yourself. But on the other hand, you did not get enough sleep anyway. So you have to go back home and you have to get a nap in before you're ready.
No. So anytime I had morning practice and I didn't have anything going on the rest of the day, I would just go home and sleep because I had nothing better to do. And coach loves to make us get in there at 6 a.m. and get a workout in, which I don't understand. But
I don't understand.
Especially on Christmas break, he's like, yes, you're coming in at 6 a.m. and you're swimming 3,000 yards. Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that is a good question because I perfectly understand that we need to practice over Christmas break because, that is season. And losing 2 weeks in season is just not a good thing.
Yeah,
But
for
6
sure.
a.m., it's like, why not like 8 or 9 or something?
Like, I want to. The only real break we get during the school year is spring break, and that's because it's right after season ends.
Mm-hmm.
But like Thanksgiving break, we still have to swim. Christmas break, still have to swim. All that, all those breaks between like October and March,
Mm-hmm.
we don't get a break.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating, but it's at least with me, I've gotten used to it. But yeah, it's a crappy first week or two to get used to
Yeah.
it. But no, yeah, going back to the my when my car broke down, the 96 Avalon. So and then one morning, I was driving to swim practice, and then it was kind of odd because I had it idle for about 10 minutes, and normally the temperature gauge goes up at least a little bit. It was a cold December morning, so I was expecting it to go up a little bit, but it didn't go up at all. I was like, oh, that's kind of odd. Started driving around, maybe got a mile from my house, and I just started to see it
Dude,
rise.
the same
Duh,
thing
duh, duh,
happened to my
duh,
car.
duh. And then when it got like right below the red, I'm like, okay, this is completely abnormal. So I just pulled into like a little parking lot. I think it was like a church parking lot. Um, I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna sit here and let it idle. I bet it will cool down that way. But then it started smoking because the coolant got on top of the engine,
Yep.
and I was like, yeah, no, I'm just turning this off. So that was an interesting morning.
Yeah, my temperature gauge was weird because it was the thermostat was stuck open, so it would just sit out on the cold side and it would not read anything. But if you hit a bump, it would close the thermostat for half a second and it would read the normal temperature, right?
Yeah.
Well, I had been hitting bumps and it would kind of go up past the normal spot. And I was like, huh, wow, the thermostat's really messed up now. Not even wondering, like, oh, is the coolant actually that hot? Like, is my engine actually overheating? And so, yeah, I found that out the hard way after running. I was running 65 down the highway on 412, got up to 70 to get up a hill. Car was not accelerating. I was like, oh, that's weird. Gave it a little more gas. Still wasn't accelerating. Put my foot to the floor.
Oh.
Was just losing speed. Was not wanting to rev any higher or anything. Got about 300 or 400 feet from my turnoff,
Mm-hmm.
and then it just shuts off. Lights turn off. It's pitch black outside. I just got off work.
Oh, I thought it was like during the day. That was
No, it was
oh my
9. It was
goodness.
9 o'clock at night. I had just got done with an 8-hour shift at the pool. So,
Oh, that gotta suck.
needless to say, I was not happy. Not
Well,
happy.
at least you got a pretty good SUV now.
Yeah, a lot of kids are fortunate. They have their parents are able to get them a car, but that's not the case for me. I have to pay for my own car, and I will just say this: if you're paying for your own car, make sure you can afford it. I can afford my payments. I'm not gonna specify. They're well over $300, and my insurance is well over $200.
Yeah.
So I'm paying over $600 a month for this car. But you just gotta like assess whether or not like is the money worth like being broke and having the car, or would you rather just go find like a little beater for like $2,000 or $3,000 and drive that around?
Yeah. And with me is that I got pretty lucky with the car that I have because now I have an '06 Avalon. Yeah, no, I'm just like a grandpa over here.
Hey, Toyotas are my favorite brand of car. They're most reliable.
They're probably my favorite as well, because even considering the one that broke down on me, the '96 Avalon, even though that was just under 200,000 miles, it was a 25-year-old car, and it was not taken terribly well care of by the owner before us. It just kind of sat in a garage for about 5 or 6 years, which is really not that good for the vehicle. So it was like I was still impressed that it got to that length. But with with the car that I have now is that I was able to. I think I had like some exterior damage in the past, but I had a really good body job, so you can't really see it. I think there's maybe on like the bottom end on the passenger side, there's like a little mark that you can see, but it was like that wiped off $2,000 to the sticker price.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's well worth it in my book.
Well, new cars are such a scam. Like
Oh, yeah.
you can go. Let's say you go to the Chevy dealership and you buy a 2020 Corvette, the new body style, the mid-engine.
That's a nice one.
They're about 65,000 for the base model. As soon as you drive that car off the lot, you're losing a lot of value on that car. You lose a lot of value within the first year of owning it. The depreciation is crazy, but most of that depreciation happens as soon as you drive it off the lot.
Exactly.
So that's why if you do buy a car, unless you're just like filthy rich, get something that's a couple years old. Like me, my car is 6 years old and it drives like it's brand new.
Exactly. And that's the thing that I was kind of thinking about. I think Noah and I on our last podcast, we were talking about our dream car. And with me is that I don't really have a dream car because I find a lot of utility in different vehicles, if I wanted to keep the old person trend and have a really nice sedan, I wouldn't get like a Rolls Royce because that's just, it's Rolls Royce, so really not that reliable. But I'd get like a Lexus. But I want to get the 2021 Lexus. I'd get like the 20, what is it? I think it would be like, if I wanted a coupe, it'd be like maybe the 2019 LC50, like dream car, like, but also at that point, it'd be 4 years old. So instead of it being 100K as the normal price, it'd be maybe more like 60K,
yes, 50 or 60.
50 or 60K, but the mileage on it is 20,000 miles because to a lot of people that's a weekend car. Well, maybe not like a Lexus like that, but it's a coupe, so it's kind of like a weekend car.
Me and you are kind of opposites because you said Lexus, dream car, and Lexus in the same sense, and I thought of a '90s model LS400.
Those are nice, though. Those are nice.
They come with a V8. It's called the 1UZ motor, and they're huge, very powerful, and
yeah.
I love old cars. I love the boxy style of cars. Like even with the Foresters, the second gen Foresters are beautiful to me. I'm a big car guy, so the day I bought my brand new car, my Forester, I got on Facebook Marketplace and I just started looking at cars again. I'm always looking for my next car.
Yeah. Yeah, I do share that sentiment towards the boxier style cars, like especially like the mid '90s ones. There's what is it? There was I think this is a while ago. Okay, so I think my mom drove. It was like maybe a mid '90s Mercedes sedan, kind of like one of those longer ones with the V8 in it. And I think they got it used, and it lasted them like, I don't know, maybe 10 or so years. I don't remember specifically, but it was just, I remember it being a nice car in the back. You'd have a lot of space, for your 6-year-old self. It was just like a really nice car, and I saw a picture of it. And I was like, wow, that's a nice car.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my dad, he mentioned that when he would sometimes drive out west for like work, he'd just, have all the windows down, just kind of, arm out the window, going 80 on an interstate and just living the life. I'm
playing
like,
Hank Williams Jr., blasting down the freeway.
Oh, I think my dad would listen to like Pearl Jam because he's kind of a dork. But
like
yeah.
Tom Petty. I love Pearl Jam. Don't knock Pearl Jam.
Okay, Pearl Jam, they're good, but like all fan bases, when you get to the extreme part, it puts a little naughty taste in your mouth.
They're all annoying.
Yes.
All fan bases are annoying when you get to like that very extreme, like die-hard fan base of any band. So
it's really with anything, like even when it comes to sports.
Yes, I hate, like, I'm kind of a hypocrite about this because I love like Formula One and stuff. I could talk anyone's ear off about Formula One, but like football fans, like if you're a Chiefs fan, like I have a couple friends that were Chiefs fans, and I did not hear the end of them complaining and crying about the Super Bowl for weeks on end. And eventually I was like, look, I don't care that Patrick Mahomes choked the Super Bowl. Like
it just happened.
Tom Brady's the GOAT.
Yeah.
Like it's undeniable. He played with the Patriots. Everyone was like, oh, it was Bill Belichick.
It's Belichick and him.
It's the team. It's the defense. Well, he went to the Bucks.
And he won his first year there.
He won his first year there. I don't want you to tell me that he's not the GOAT.
He is. I think for football, he is the GOAT. I don't really know how else to say that. The only person who's even in the same universe that he is in his own sports would be like,
we'll see.
Maybe like Michael Jordan.
We'll see. I'm a huge San Francisco fan. I love the 49ers. I was so happy that they made the Super Bowl. What was it, 2018? I don't remember exactly, but I loved them, and so. Obviously, I'm going to compare Tom Brady to, like, Joe Montana.
Yeah, within the sport, yeah.
But he played in a time when, like, Ronnie Lott got his finger lopped off and still played football the next week,
They were just built different.
It's just a different time. Like, you can't compare. Same way you can't compare LeBron James or Stephen Curry to Michael Jordan or anything like that.
Yeah. Every generation of a sport, they learn something new
It
and
evolves.
it evolves.
Exactly.
They learn something new and they forget about one thing.
Exactly.
With the something that's kind of interesting, that when the 3-point line got established, I think it was in 79 or 80, around that range. It was like each team took a total of like 2 or 3 3-point shots at like attempts, not even makes, a game.
Yeah.
And now it is not rare for somebody to make 5 a game.
It's not rare for a 7-point center to try and shoot a 3 every once in a while.
Like for the Oklahoma City Thunder, there's I can't remember his name, but I remember somebody was joking that he looks like a stock trader because he has like big bulky glasses, and he's from Serbia and he's like 7 foot tall and he just nails down threes like it's nothing. I think he's 7 foot tall, mind you, and he has the record for a rookie for the most 3-point attempts and makes in a game.
We'll see, like, you're 7 feet tall, your arms are like 4 foot long apiece. The ball's already level with the basket when he winds up to shoot it,
Yeah. Like on the Arkansas Razorbacks, Connor Vanover, he plays like a guard even though he's 7'3".
How about them Hogs?
I know,
making
right?
it to the Elite 8 this year.
Did you see what is it, Hunter Yurchek on his Twitter last night? He said, "Don't worry, Razorback Nation, we're fine." And then it was like a toast of Musselman. I'm like, yes, we got him.
I was like, he's gonna be a god. Like, Elite 8 this year for the first time since the 90s. If we make it back to the dance again next year and go even further, Musselman, they're gonna make a friggin' statue of. They're gonna name Bud Walton Arena after him.
Maybe, but no, he's an extremely likable coach, and he is. He's one of those people that I see the way he conducts himself, and although at times he's a coach, this is supposed to, he gets a little manic or anything like that, but like his dedication to the sport is amazing.
Absolutely.
That's like him, and like it kind of has that dedication and that work ethic that I really respect. And then even on like the football side, Coach Pittman, he has that respectability, the humbleness, and the work ethic that really makes me respect him.
I value respect over results, but that's just me.
That is one thing I respect. I think it's a good combination. Definitely. It's definitely preferable. But if somebody maybe their results aren't as good, but they're a really respectable person compared to someone that you can maybe flip those just a little bit, I take the respect person all the time.
Like, nobody wants the nice guy coach that gets last in the conference every year. But
if you have a great coach and you get third in the conference and you play for a championship every other year, that's perfectly fine.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm just glad we made it, and I'm surprised that we made the Sweet 16.
Yeah, really.
When we made it to the Elite 8, I dang near lost my mind.
Yeah, that was awesome. I was
on Dixon when it happened.
How was that?
Everyone went wild.
I bet.
I know those drunk college kids everywhere, and everyone just went wild.
Yeah, I've heard of some stories when the Hogs won in the 90s, what Dixon Street was like, and it was just like anarchy in the streets.
Yeah, I mean, everyone had stopped what they were doing when we took the lead, and then they went to shoot that final shot. I mean, everyone was quiet. Everyone was sitting there contently watching, and then they shot and missed.
Like,
And
yes!
it was like, ah! Everyone just went nuts. It was something to see for sure.
Yeah.
Also, Yancey's hot dog stand is back open on Dixon. I don't know if you've ever eaten there.
Yes, they closed down for like a year, and then was it the
Yes,
Barstool Fund that helped them out, or was it just like a few like local fundraisers that were able to get them back up?
I'm fairly certain it was like a group effort, but regardless of who helped get it going, I will be going there this weekend to get another hot dog. Had one last weekend and the weekend before.
I haven't been there in a few years. How good are they?
They're amazing. The best hot dogs on anywhere.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember down in Fayetteville. I think it was I'm not sure if it's technically a steakhouse or a barbecue place, but Herman's.
I love Herman's.
That is great.
Absolutely.
They have some pretty good steak. But no, I guess I didn't realize this, but the guy who owns Herman's, he got reached out by Dave Pratnoy, the Barstool president, and that was one of like the local businesses that that Barstool Fund went to. It was a couple thousand or a couple hundred, like a good amount to kind of keep Herman's afloat, went to Herman's.
Yeah.
And I thought that was excellent because if Herman's was lost, I'm not sure what Fayetteville would be like. That'd be like using Hugo's or something like that.
We would be cavemen again if everyone had to go to Hugo's instead of Herman's. We'd be back to the Stone Age.
I mean, if Herman's was on Dixon or more towards downtown, that would be, I think they'd probably be more of a Fayetteville staple than Hugo's. But since Hugo's is literally underground, it's on Block Street in between Dixon, the square, and all that. That's just like, if you're already around there, it's like, I might as well get a Derek Special.
Yeah, for sure.
Derek Specials are good. I like their hamburgers. Definitely better than a lot of other places. But when it comes to like just the grilled chicken on the Kaiser bun, that's good.
I mean, Fayetteville has slowly turned into more and more of a college town. Like, obviously, it is a college town.
Really?
You've got crappy drivers driving around all over Fayetteville. You've got, all these things you can go do, but, like, even more so, like, with the type of food that's being served and, like, all the businesses that are coming up. It's definitely, the school is more of a sports school than ever before, I think.
Yeah, I think the reason why that is because
all the sports are doing amazing right now.
They're doing really good right now.
We just stomped Ole Miss in baseball.
That was fun to watch. Well, I didn't watch all of it. I listened to, I think it was the 5th through the 9th inning on the radio.
Yeah, it was.
And that was something else because I think it was the 7th inning. Yeah, it was the 7th inning where they tied up 14-14. And yeah, that was crazy. When I think it was that top of the 8th inning, and they were able to hold them off for the 9th. But it was the top of the 8th inning where they scored 4 runs right after Mississippi, Ole Miss tied us back up at 14. I was like, I would have got my nerves shaken up, especially since we were ahead. I think it was like 7-0 within the first few, or like it was just like it was a blowout to begin with, or it was tied. It was a roller coaster of a game. Really.
Yeah. I really wish that the U of A had a men's swim team, not because like.
Title mine, my friends.
Not because I would do it. Like, I don't want to swim in high school or in college, sorry. But, it's kind of forced me to, like, come to terms with the fact that I can't swim anymore, which is good because, I'm more of a car person. Like, you could put a picture of a car in front of me, and 9 times out of 10, I'll tell you exactly what it is.
Really?
Like, you could pull up some 60s model like Dodge or something, and I could pretty easily tell you all the engines that came in it and stuff like that. So
that's really impressive. With me is that I like cars, but I really only got into cars, I would say, a couple of months ago. That's because I got the new car. I'm like, obviously, I'm looking at. I had to research, and then I got more and more fascinated. But yeah, I'm not to that stage yet. I wouldn't be surprised eventually that I get there. But right now, I kind of look at a lot of the coupes and the sedans that are out there, and just kind of a lot of things that I do know. Like, I know a lot about Subaru, and I know a good amount about Toyota. So those were like the 2 places that I started. Yeah.
I'm generally like, in my free time, like a lot of people will watch YouTube or like like get on TV and watch their show or whatever. I literally just watch like full replays of like the 24 hours of Le Mans. And like, I'm not a NASCAR guy. My little brother is. He loves NASCAR. He knows everything about like, all the drivers and stuff. And I respect NASCAR drivers for their abilities, because it seems like they just drive around in a circle in very close proximity. But the truth is, like, if you have four cars, they're four cars side by side going around a turn. The track is like 3 like interstate lanes wide. So imagine 4 cars taking up 3 car lanes, going 200 miles an hour.
And doing a left turn.
And if one of them gets too close to the other guy, the pressure that is being generated by the downforce of the car goes away, and it causes a pile up of the whole field.
Yeah, with me is that, just because I have gotten into cars recently, I don't really know how a lot of the car races work. Like, I know a little bit more about NASCAR because we live in, like, we don't really live in the South, but we have enough people that live that are from, like, you can definitely tell the South. Yeah. It's kind of the old joke, the state bird of Alabama is the NASCAR. But
yeah, I'm from Louisiana. So
I guess I didn't know that. That's cool.
I'm from Shreveport.
Shreveport?
Yes.
That's cool.
But they say like motorsport isn't a sport, but like
it's a sport.
I rest assured, I can assure you that, especially like Formula One, that is definitely a sport. There's some turns that they're going 180 miles an hour. They just flick the wheel in and make that turn, and they're experiencing 5 Gs of force. So imagine, like, how much does a human head weigh? Like 6 to 10 pounds?
Something like that, yeah.
So imagine your 10-pound head experiencing 5 Gs. Your head now weighs 50 pounds.
Yeah.
And their neck has to be able to cope with not only your 10-pound head, but the 5-pound safety helmet that they wear. So essentially,
the 75-pound object that your neck has to keep.
Essentially, yes, your head weighs 75 pounds, and you have to do that corner at least like 50 times.
Yeah,
over and over and over.
A lot of the people that I hear that from is like, driving is not a sport. It's like, you drive a Corolla and you haven't gone over 90 in your life. When I drive, I'm safe. I would, if I would, I'd go 100, but I'm not.
Obey the speed limit.
Obey the speed limit, because I am one of those people that I don't like the brake rules.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'll just push it. If it's a 75, I might go to a little bit over 80, but that's like the most.
Like 81 miles.
And I'm like, ooh, that's enough for the day.
Ooh, brother, let's slow her back down.
Yeah, but I've had the experience to go over 100 at like a racetrack.
Yeah.
Always like an airport that they turned into like a racetrack for today or something. Like a drag strip. And I think I went it was what was it? Oh, I can't remember what the car was, but it was one of the it was a BMW. It might have been like an M. What's the coupe? It's a V6 coupe. I think it's the M5 or the M3. I can't remember.
Probably the M3.
M3, yeah, and we went, I think, 110, and I was like, whoa, this is fun. Yeah. And they were like, we can go faster. I'm like, nah, I think we're good, though.
Yeah, my uncle had a 70s model Camaro, right?
Yeah.
It was kind of a turd, like there were mismatched body panels on it, but he traded it for an H1 Hummer and 2, like, Volkswagen Beetle sandrails, and he was like, "Hey, you want to go for a ride in this sandrail?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I get in there and we get out on my grandma's dirt road, right? He comes to a stop and floors it, and this thing does a wheelie.
Oh my goodness! In a Hummer.
In the sandrail.
Oh, in the sandrail. Okay.
Yeah. And it just did a bumper stand, and terrified me. He's like, "You want to drive?" I was like, nope. No, we're gonna end up in the lake.
Rather not die the day.
Yeah, I'd rather not crash the sandrail that you just traded your very expensive Camaro for. Which he's always doing trades like that. I mean, he traded up to that Camaro from like, God, I don't even know, like a 90s Model S10 or something.
What was I thinking? Oh yeah. So I am curious about you know a lot about Formula One, especially compared to me. So when people root for, do they root for like, how do I phrase this? Because I know in NASCAR it ends up being that they only use like is it that they use one car model, or they only use like 2 or 3?
So essentially, NASCAR started way back when the manufacturers would take like production model cars and modify them slightly to, make them faster for like the oval. So that's why you see cars like the Dodge Daytona, the Plymouth Superbird. They're basically Dodge Chargers with huge wings and way bigger motors, right?
Yeah.
Today, you can't really stuff a V8 in a Toyota Camry, which is what
they liked, what they want to do.
What they're modeled after is Camrys. You can't stuff a naturally aspirated 900 horsepower V8 into a Camry and expect the wheels to not fall off of it.
How do they make it 900 horsepower? Because I can understand a naturally aspirated, like what is it, like a naturally aspirated, V8 making 400 to, even on the high end making like 600 horsepower. But how do you get to 900? Is it like the turbochargers? But it's like
naturally aspirated means that it is not. There's no forced induction. There's no turbo. There's no supercharger. It mixes the fuel with the air from the intake. It's not having any air stuffed into it.
Okay.
Essentially, the NASCAR motors make a lot more than 900 horsepower, but they have what's called restrictor plates, which is essentially a metal plate that goes in between the intake and like the throttle body and stuff, and limits the amount of air that is forced into the motor. Otherwise, the cars would go 230 miles an hour. And then when they crash, the car just like falls apart and catches on fire.
Yeah.
And then the driver's like rolling down the racetrack in basically a metal cage.
Yeah. Okay. Because I know with NASCAR is that they end up restricting it one way or another to make it pretty standard amongst everyone. So it's really just the driving, like the skill of the driver.
Well, really, any motorsport, you have those regulations in place, and it is.
Yes, we're there's currently people in here, so if you hear stuff like that, that's why. So. Yeah, sorry, continue.
Anyways, so in all motorsports, there are regulations in place, not so much to level the playing field, because obviously they want motorsports want to reward the teams that put in the most effort, which can end up being unfair for, let's say, Formula One, where Mercedes has so much more money because they've won the past several championships in a row.
Yeah, is it like 8 out of 11 or something crazy? Because they stopped for a good 40 years after they had a pretty high profile crash in the 60s, right?
Yes. So they it was actually at Le Mans in the 60s. They had a very bad incident where a car ended up going airborne and slamming through a crowd of people. The engine decapitated people. The car crushed people. That was the moment when they kind of realized, hey, we're pretty stupid. We need to put some safety regulations in place.
Let's not go over 250 anymore, guys.
Yeah. So they Mercedes pulled out of the sport along with BMW after that incident, and only in the 2000s did Mercedes make their return to F1. And F1 has like eras, I guess you could call it, where like they have these major regulation changes every decade or so to like either make the sport safer or equalize the field a little bit. But the current era that we're in is called the hybrid era, which is like these massive V6s, these turbo V6s that make 1,000 horsepower, combined with a kinetic energy system, where when you slam on the brakes or you coast around a corner, instead of just dispersing that energy, it collects it and lets you use like a second motor.
like a hybrid that it recharges the actual battery and you use that battery as a motor.
Use the battery as a motor, so it
fascinating actually.
It adds like 150 horsepower. So they have a button on their steering wheel. It's called the overtake button, right?
Yeah.
And it essentially turns that electric motor on and allows them to get that little extra boost to overtake, because F1 cars produce like such an immense amount of downforce, which is like what keeps them glued to the road, that the air behind them is like the air behind them is like it's not as dense, and it makes it harder for them to take the corners and stuff. It's called dirty air, but I don't know where I was going with that. Sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. Yeah, no, with me is that I don't, the more and more I learn, the better. But I always, I don't know why, maybe I was not remembering correctly, but I always thought that like Formula One, it ends up being like, you have like these like no, that's like really small, but it'd be like you have these like on the low end 2 liters worth of displacement V6s that make, 500 horsepower.
Yeah, so it's, I just remember where I was going with that. Anyway,
okay, yeah.
So that hybrid era, right? It's Mercedes has dominated that those regulations took over in 2014 when they killed the V8s, the V8 era. And ever since 2014, Mercedes has won every single constructors championship, and it's arguably the most dominant like reign of any team in Formula One history, and it's getting really annoying for F1 fans to watch Mercedes win every weekend.
Oh, and this kind of goes into my question about Formula One. So does it end up being that people root for the teams, like they root for Mercedes, or they root for Renault, or do they root for the actual driver, like Hamilton or something?
There's yes and no. There's actually a very interesting situation happening right now in the only American F1 team, which is called Haas, right? I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Michael Schumacher.
The name sounds familiar, but I can't really
most
picture his
legendary
face.
F1 driver of all time. You say F1, you think of Michael Schumacher and Ayrton Senna, but
oh yeah, okay,
so Michael Schumacher's son, Mick Schumacher, just graduated from F2, and he's racing for the American Haas team right now, which is very good to see another Schumacher on the grid. But at the same time, Haas's other driver is named Nikita Mazepin, and everyone hates him. There's several reasons why they hate him. Mainly because of some past choices he made. I'm not gonna get into all that, but essentially the first race of the season, he crashed in the first corner of the race, and everyone was just like, "Yeah, you get what you get."
Bruh. Oh my. So with I'm trying to remember. With Formula One, do people also end up like rooting for like your home nation? Because I know like Finland for some reason, like even though they're a country of less than 50 million people, they have like a good portion of the amount of Formula One champions.
Yeah. So Finland, one of the current Mercedes drivers is from Finland, and so obviously they're gonna root for him. And like Ayrton Senna was probably the most loved F1 driver ever. He was from Brazil, and when he died in the 90s in an F1 crash, the entire nation of Brazil came together. I mean, the route that they took with his casket to his burial grounds, the roads were lined 10 deep the whole way there with people wanting to see him taken to his burial. So like
that's insane.
Like so like nationalities kind of come together in that sort of sense, and yeah. So
the Haas team for Haas, did I say it was a Haas?
People pronounce it either way.
It's H-A-A-S, right?
Yes,
okay, because I've heard it pronounced both ways. But I'm trying to think. So what actual manufacturer is on the Haas team, or is it like the Chevy and Ford try to work together on something, or how does that work?
So there's currently no American manufacturers involved in F1. The only manufacturers that produce like engines are Mercedes, Ferrari, and Renault right now. I think there's one more, but school has killed my brain activity, so I can't think right now.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm not even at school today, and I'm just like...
You're not at school. You're just here to do a podcast?
Yeah, that's what I do.
Wow.
I think I've mentioned this on the podcast, but no, literally every Tuesday, what I do is, since I'm blended learning, I'll wake up at like 9. I'll do some homework till about 11, and then I'll either do homework until 11. I'll go eat some tacos and come here for the podcast at 12. Or
you guys need to leave a like for this man's dedication.
Yeah,
leave a like and subscribe to the Near Patients podcast.
Yes, that would be nice. I'm not really sure with the whole podcast. I'm not really sure how much effort I am supposed to put into it. I know if I were to put like a lot of like,
I think like one episode a week.
I think one episode a week is pretty good because right now it's like we consistently get about 30 to 60 views, and it's not a lot for YouTube standards, but it's my idea is that if I keep doing this, I'm doing this for myself and for people that want to listen, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
But if I just keep producing content, maybe over time, maybe one video gets 500 that's viewed them like them, and that goes to the next one. Maybe another one just randomly gets 1,000, or just kind of grow from there. It's like Mr. Beast. I think he was on YouTube for like 6 years before he really got big. He was a lot more dedicated. He'd like slap himself 1,000 times and try to pronounce words, but.
I wish Mr. Beast would, I'm going to start streaming on Twitch in hopes that Mr. Beast will donate me $10,000 or something. I'll just pay my car off with Mr. Beast charity funds.
Yeah. I've always been curious how he gets that much money. I think he probably gets it from like sponsors and stuff, but
I think it's like sponsors and just like the money he makes from his videos, because like his videos get an average of like several million views at least, if not like tens of millions of views.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. I think I was talking to someone. I think I also mentioned this on the podcast before, but I know someone who has about 100K subscribers on YouTube, and he probably gets about 200 to 4,000 views a month. And he said out of that is that you get a. It's not like you get a monstrous amount, but it's like off of just having 100K subscribers without having a Patreon or having a lot of sponsors. It's like you could live kind of off of that if you have the right targeting. Because if you're targeting, because the way the advertising on YouTube works is that if you are a brand that's targeting seniors, you're not going to get that much money because seniors tend not to change their buying habits, so they're not as, advertisers don't want to do that. But if you're one of those baby sing-along, I love you, you love me, like...
Baby Shark Bull.
Spider-Man, Elsa, I don't know. Stuff like that's really targeted towards really young kids. Advertisers will give, like, I think upwards to, like, a cent of view for their ad to be run because children are that, like, being able to...
brands can be molded. This is marketing 101 right
Yeah,
now.
It is.
It's very useful info to have, even if you're not into business.
Yeah, just want to understand why companies do the things that they do, or why people act the way they act. It's a really beneficial thing. So, okay, I'm trying to think. What have we talked? We talked about a lot today.
Yeah, we've kind of just been like going on about cars and stuff. But
yeah, I think that was most of what we were going to originally talk about. But is there any? I'm trying to think. Is Germany the country that with the most Formula One driver champion people? I'm not sure.
So like champions are just drivers in general.
Okay, yeah, champions then.
I actually knew the answer to this question a couple days ago. I'm almost certain it's Great Britain.
Great Britain.
Because like Lewis Hamilton's from Great Britain, and he contributes for 7 world titles and probably 8 this year, unless Red Bull gets their act together. Which after the first race, Red Bull was much, much, much closer to Mercedes than they were last year.
Really?
So
is Hamilton a Mercedes driver?
Yes.
On a Mercedes team? Okay.
And then Max Verstappen he's a Dutch driver. He races for Red Bull, and he is he's always been one of my favorites. He was one of those guys that so normally how it goes is you start in like Formula Ford or Formula Renault. You work your way into like F4 and then to F3.
Are you still considered like a professional driver at that time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's still like the best of the best,
Yeah, that's what I would imagine.
And so like if you do good in F3, maybe you get promoted to a team in F2 if they want you, right?
Yeah.
And then if you do good in F2, you may get to F1. Max Verstappen raced in F4, went to F3, and then Red Bull recruited him immediately from F3
to F1.
He skipped F2.
Wow.
That's how good he is. And he's 23 years old, 24. And basically...
And he's already making the Red Bull team look pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
Since he joined the team in 2016, he's had 7 or 8 teammates. No, he's had 5 teammates. And none of them have beaten him.
Wow.
Not one time.
So do the teammates... So I know in, like... I'm just kind of trying to think of, like, things aerodynamically. I'm not sure why I am. But, like, in ultra-marathon racing, they'll have teams, and that they'll pace for the person in front of them so the aerodynamic drag isn't too bad. And then the person that really could break out the speed is the one that, you know, the lead driver almost, but the lead runner. Is it similar to that in Formula One?
In Formula One, the teams do work together. The main thing is, like, with the teams, like, they don't, like, obviously there are number 1 and number 2 drivers, and, like, the number 1 drivers, like, the one with the most seniority or the one who gets the best results. But when it comes to the race, if the number 2 driver is ahead of the number 1 driver going into, like, the pit stop phase, number 2 driver gets preference over, like, what strategy he wants to do when he wants to pit for new tires.
Okay.
So it's a team effort, but at the same time, like, everyone's out there to win. So they're not gonna, if your teammate's faster than you and he's behind you, you're not gonna be like, all right, buddy, here you go.
Yeah.
I'll let you pass.
It's like, no, I'm gonna go.
They're like, no, I'm gonna make you fight for it.
Okay, that's cool. Well, I think that was my last question for Formula One, cool. But you have to go, and so do I.
I have to make it to college algebra.
Oh, yes. Well, since you're here, just last thing, thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
This was a very good podcast, in my opinion.
If any of y'all want to talk about Formula One, hit me up, because I don't talk about it with anyone, because no one our age, like, cares about Formula One or, like, really understands it. So it's like, I just like this Friday they got another race coming up. I'm gonna spend my whole weekend watching it. So.
That's dedication, especially from that's dedication. That's like watching the Masters the entire last weekend.
See,
I mean, I watched Sunday, but I didn't watch all of it.
Some guy walked into work. I was working at the gym upstairs at the Jones Center, and he was like, dude, did you watch the Masters? I was like,
no.
Is that golf? He was like, yeah, it's golf. I was like, no, I did not watch the Masters. I did not watch a single second of the Masters.
Yeah, and I watch it on the Sunday just because that's what I do. But
everyone has their own preferences, and obviously not everyone wants to watch cars,
and others don't want to.
You know,
and others don't want to watch a dude hitting a ball with a long stick.
Yeah.
So that being said, I guess we'll end up.
I do love balls and long sticks.
Yes.
Especially in golf.
Yes.
Don't take that in the wrong context.
Baseball, golf, happens. But yeah, everybody listening, thank you for listening to the Near Patience podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a like and consider subscribing. If you didn't like the podcast, you know what to do. But
do not dislike the video. I will find you and I will do not nice things to you.
Okay, well,
I will tickle your feet.
Yeah, being tickled by the feet is probably the worst torture I can think of. But that being said, everyone, thank you for listening. Listen to us on Spotify. Listen to us on YouTube. I think we're on Pandora and iHeartRadio now or something like that. I don't really know how it works. But that being said, this is Henry signing off.